Hello and welcome to Sir John Oldcastle, our first exploring session looking at the true and honourable history of the life of Sir John Oldcastle, the Good Lord Cobham. This was printed in 1600 and we have a production date for it, an initial production date of November 1599. It's a play by the Admiral's men at the Rose and has multiple authors. It is, most importantly to us, it has Anthony Munday. This is the last sort of fairly well-established text Anthony Munday has some fingers in, but it also features writings by Michael Drayton, Robert Wilson, who we've encountered before, and Richard Hathway, who I have literally no idea who that is. I don't know how the text is supposed to break down or how precisely this data all comes together, but they seem like fairly clear authorial connections with this text. So lots of people have had their grubby little prejudices over it. So without further ado, we're going to dive into this text. There are a lot of characters, there are a lot of parts. We're quite tight with some of the doubling. It's hopefully going to be fine. So today, reading Servant, Suffolk, First Poor Man, and Acton is...
Hi, I'm Eric, and I'm definitely not going to remember that, so I put it in a notepad doc.
Excellent. However you can get through the day. Reading Powis, Butler, and Second Poor Man is...
Hello, Helen Good, and I'm in Hull.
Reading Bailiff, Wrotham, and Beverley is...
Me, Rachael Nicole, holding a cat mug in New Jersey.
Reading Gough, Old Man, Constable, and Murley is...
Hi, Alan Scott, based in Suffolk.
Reading Sheriff, King, Soldier, Second Soldier, and Aleman is...
Hi, I'm Sarah Blake, here for the moment.
And reading Owen, Bishop, and Sumner is...
Lalit from Paris.
Reading Davy, Cobham, and Bourne is...
Briony, actor in Lincolnshire.
Reading Prologue, Mayor, Fourth Poor Man, Doll, and Huntington is...
Hi, my name's Elizabeth Amisu, and I'm an author based in Romford.
And reading Herbert, Second Judge, and Harpoole is...
Hi, I'm Lynn. I'm a college writing teacher who's almost on summer break, and I live in the northwestern United States.
And I'm your host, Robert Crighton. I will be reading briefly First Judge, if I remember. As I say, this is lots and lots of doubling. I think I've gone through everyone. So without further ado, we're going to dive straight into the prologue, and then we're going to run straight into Act 1, Scene 1, where everybody seems to be on. So, prologue, please.
The doubtful title, gentlemen, prefixed upon the argument we have in hand, may breed suspense and wrongfully disturb the peaceful quiet of your settled thoughts. To stop which scruple, let this brief suffice. It is no pampered glutton we present, nor aged counsellor to youthful sin, but one whose virtue shone above the rest, a valiant martyr and a virtuous peer, in whose true faith and loyalty expressed unto his sovereign and his country's weal, we strive to pay that tribute of our love, your favours merit. Let fair truth be graced, since forged invention former time defaced.
And we go straight from that prologue into Act 1, Scene 1. Enter Lord Herbert, Lord Powis, Owen, Gough, Davy, and several other followers of the Lords Herbert and Powis. They fight! Grr. In the fight, enter the sheriff and two of his men.
My lords, I charge ye in his highness's name to keep the peace, you and your followers.
Good master sheriff, look unto yourself.
Do so, for we have other business.
And they proffer to fight again.
Will ye disturb the judges and the assize? Hear the king's proclamation you were best.
Hold then, let's hear it.
But be brief, you were best.
Oyez!
Cousin, make sure to owe or shall mar your yeas.
Oyez!
What? Has there nothing to say but oh yes?
Oyez!
Oh nay, pie, cosy, pluck down with her, A poise, a poise.
Herbert, Herbert, and down with the Powis.
And helter-skelter again.
Hold! In the king's name, hold!
Down in the knave's name, down!
And in this fight, the bailiff is knocked down and the sheriff and others run away.
Powis, I think thy Welsh and thou do smart.
Herbert, I think my sword came near thy heart.
Thy heart's best blood shall pay the loss of mine.
Herbert, Herbert!
A Powis, a Powis.
As they are lifting their weapons, enter the Mayor of Hereford and his officers and townsmen with clubs.
My lords, as you are liegemen to the crown, true noblemen and subjects to the king, attend his highness proclamation, commanded by the judges of assize, for keeping peace at this assembly.
Good Master Mayor of Hereford, be brief.
Sergeant, without the ceremony of oyes, pronounce aloud the proclamation.
The king's justices, perceiving what public mischief may ensue this private quarrel, in his majesty's name do straitly charge and command all persons of what degree soever to depart this city of Hereford, except such as are bound to give attendances at this assize, and that no man presume to wear any weapon, especially Welsh hooks, forest bills.
How? No pill nor Wells hook? How?
Peace, and hear the proclamation.
And that the Lord Powis do presently disperse and discharge his retinue and depart the city in the king's peace, he and his followers on pain of imprisonment.
How? Put her Lord Powis in prison? A Powis, a Powis? Casson live and tie with her lord.
Herbert, Herbert!
Apologies. In this fight, there's of course another fight. The Lord Herbert is wounded and falls to the ground. The mayor and his company go away crying clubs.
Oops.
Clubs.
Thank you.
Clubs.
Powis runs away. Gough and other of Herbert's faction busy themselves about Herbert. Enter two judges in their robes, and the sheriff and his bailiffs are for them, etc. And, oh, I'm first judge. Where's the Lord Herbert? Is he hurt or slain?
He is here, my lord.
How fares his lordship, friends?
Mortally wounded, speechless. He cannot live.
Convey him hence, let not his wounds take air, and get him dressed with expedition. Which leads to the exit of Herbert and Gough. Master Mayor of Hereford, Master Shreve of the Shire, commit Lord Powis to safe custody to answer the disturbance of the peace. Lord Herbert's peril and his high contempt of us, and you, the King's Commissioners, see it be done with care and diligence.
Please it your lordship, my Lord Powis is gone past all recovery.
Yet let search be made to apprehend his followers that are left.
There are some of them. Sirs, lay hold of them.
Us? And why? What has her done, I pray you?
Disarm them, bailiffs.
Officers, assist!
Hear you. Lord Shudge, what reason is for this?
Cousin, for fighting for our lord.
Away with them.
Hang you, my lord.
Good my Lord Herbert's man a shitten knave.
I's live and die in good quarrel.
Pray you do justice, let all be present.
Prison, no. Lord Shudge, I will give you pale good surety.
What bail, what sureties?
Her cousin, ap Rice, ap Evan, ap Morris, ap Morgan, ap Llewellyn, ap Maddock, ap Meredith, ap Griffin, ap Davy, ap Owen, ap Shinkenstones.
Two of the most sufficient are in now.
And please your lordship, these are all but one.
Oh, to jail with them and Lord Herbert's men. We'll talk with them when the assize is done. Riotous, audacious, and unruly grooms, must we be forced to come from the bench to quiet brawls with every which every constable in other civil places can suppress.
What was the quarrel that caused all this stir?
About religion, as I heard, my lord. Lord Powis detracted from the power of Rome, affirming Wycliffe's doctrine to be true and Rome's erroneous. Hot reply was made by the Lord Herbert. They were traitors all that would maintain it. Powis answered, they were as true, as noble, and as wise as he that would defend it with their lives. He named, for instance, Sir John Oldcastle, the Lord Cobham. Herbert replied again, he, thou, and all are traitors that so hold. The lie was given, the several factions drawn, and so enraged that we could not appease it.
This case concerns the King's prerogative and is dangerous to the state and commonwealth. Gentlemen, justices, Master Mayor and Master Shreve, it doth behoove us all, and each of us in general and particular, to have care for suppressing of all mutinies and all assemblies, except soldiers' musters for the King's preparation into France. We hear of secret conventicles made, and there is doubt of some conspiracies which may break out into rebellious arms when the King's gone, perchance before he go. Note, as an instance, this one perilous fray. What factions might have grown on either part to the destruction of the King and realm, yet in my conscience Sir John Oldcastle, innocent of it, only his name was used. We, therefore, from His Highness, give this charge. You, Master Mayor, look to your citizens. You, Master Shreve, unto your shire, and you, as justices in everyone's precinct, there be no meetings. When the vulgar sort sit on their ale bench with their cups and cans, matters of state be not their common talk, nor pure religion by their lips profaned. Let us return unto the bench again, and there examine further of this fray. And enters a bailiff and a servant.
Sirs, have ye taken the Lord Powis yet?
No, nor heard of him.
Oh, he's gone far enough.
They that are left behind shall answer all.
And exit all. What a busy little scene. Other Beatle song stage directions are available, but I do particularly like Helter Skelter again. It's particularly nice. I like the prologue. It's quite nicely catty. Just there's some nice stuff going on there. This fight is quite detailed. We got various sites. We got an attempt in the dialogue to give some clues about accents, which may or may not be helping us in our current instance, because ultimately there's no preparation for anyone. So some people are running hard into accents that they're not really down for. But yeah, we get a real sense of action here, which is then given some quite heavy exposition at the end in form of, and if you didn't understand what was going on here, let me explain in a long speech exactly what's going on. There's some religious stuff, some strange things. There's some people having some strange religious ideas. But Lord Cobham, it's not his fault. He's a good chap. They're just doing it in his name. In theory. Thoughts from the room about this Helter Skelter? Anyone want to leap in at this early stage? Eric?
I was going to say it reminded me a lot of the scenes we did yesterday, which is like completely different play, completely different genre. But I mean, like the whole sort of quick exchange of words, characters, I don't know, actions. Was very, when they were beating Christ yesterday, it was very reminiscent of that.
Yes, for those who don't know the order of these videos, literally yesterday we were looking at some crucifixions. So interesting parallel possibly there. Helen.
Yeah, I mean this speaks to me because Welshmen with names that baffled the clerks were quite common in Star Chamber, because they would all these sort of battles were were called riot, and therefore they came under Star Chamber. Of course, Star Chamber didn't exist at the time of in which the play is set, but they certainly rioting Welsh with impossible names are my everyday work.
Well, yeah, and it's nice that, you know, when asked, you know, I can pull up bail, I've got some sureties, you know, what surety do you have? And this long list of all these various names comes out, and of course, no, 2 will do. We only need 2 names. That's fine. What do you want to put down? Other thoughts? Rachael.
Is that what the up? Is that mean of? Like saying that, you know, I'm her cousin is rise of Evan, like is of rise of Evan of Morris of, like, it's the lineage. Okay. That's the part that was very confusing to me.
Yeah, it's a prefix and a part of the name. Yes, exactly that. I think. Yeah. Other thoughts going on here in this busy scene. That we have more scenes available, so you know, we can gather more on it. Briony.
Just to say that I think trying to write phonetically for accents fails more often than it succeeds, in my opinion. Certainly for me reading them anyway.
Well, yeah, we did have that question in the chat about, you know, should we be regularising the spelling? But it is an indication that, you know, even if you don't like the way it's spelt, it does at least indicate this is supposed to be doing it. There should be accent work going on here, even if we might adjust in performance precisely how it's supposed to be performed. Depending on modern accents and whether there's any shift and difference. Because that's the other question, yeah, just because it's the accent then may not be exactly the same as the accent is now, which is always an area I'm quite interested in a vague way, in the way that I always spend no time on it whatsoever. Any other thoughts before we go into scene 2? I don't actually know if the original text actually was split into acts and scenes, wherever these acts and scene divisions are entirely later. I suspect they're later additions. So there may be alternative ways of viewing the ordering, the way these scenes are numbered. I see nobody waving, so we're going to go to Act 1, Scene 2, as I have it here. And we're going to meet now some new people. We're going to meet, enter Suffolk, the Bishop of Rochester, Butler, and the Parson of Wrotham.
Now, my Lord Bishop, take free liberty to speak your mind. What is your suit to us?
My noble lord, no more than what you know, and have been oftentimes invested with. Grievous complaints have passed between the lips of envious persons to upbraid the clergy, some carping at the livings which we have, and others spurning at the ceremonies that are of ancient custom in the church, amongst which Lord Cobham is a chief. What inconvenience may proceed hereof both to the king and to the commonwealth may easily be discerned, when like a frenzy this innovation shall possess their minds. These upstarts will have followers to uphold their damned opinion, more than Harry shall to undergo his quarrel against the French.
What proof is there against them to be had that what you say the law may justify?
They give themselves the name of Protestants, and meet in fields and solitary groves.
Was ever heard, my lord, the like till now? The thieves and rebels, blood heretics, plain heretics all stand tooth to their teeth, shall have, to colour their vile practices, a title of such worth as Protestant.
Enter one with a letter.
Oh, but you must not swear it ill becomes one of your coat to rap out bloody oaths.
Pardon him, good my lord, it is his zeal, an honest country prelate, who laments to see such foul disorder in the church.
There's one, they call him Sir John Oldcastle. He has not his name for naught, for like a castle doth he encompass them within his walls, but till that castle be subverted quite, we ne'er shall be at quiet in the realm.
That is not our suit, my lord, that he be ta'en and brought in question for his heresy. Besides, 2 letters brought me out of Wales, wherein my Lord Hereford writes to me what tumult and sedition was begun about the Lord Cobham at the assizes there, for they had much ado to calm the rage, and that the valiant Herbert there is slain.
A fire that must be quenched. Well, say no more. The king anon goes to the council chamber there to debate matters touching France. As he doth pass by, I'll inform his grace concerning your petition. Master Butler, if I forget, do you remember me?
I will, my lord.
And offer him a purse.
Not for a recompense, but as a token of our love to you, by me, my lords of the clergy, do present this purse, and in it a full 1,000 angels, praying your lordship to accept their gift.
I thank them, my lord bishop, for their love, but will not take their money. If you please give it to this gentleman, you may.
Sir, then we crave your furtherance herein.
The best I can, my lord of Rochester.
Nay, pray ye take it. Trust me, but you shall.
Were ye all thee upon Newmarket Heath, you should not need strain courtesy who should hat. Sir John would quickly rid ye of that care.
The king is coming. Fear ye not, my lord. The first thing I will break with him shall be about your matter.
Indeed, enter the King Henry and Huntington in talk.
My lord of Suffolk, was it not said the clergy did refuse to lend us money toward our wars in France?
It was, my lord, but very wrongfully.
I know it was. For Huntington here tells me they have been very bountiful of late.
And still they vow, my gracious lord, to be so, hoping your majesty will think of them as your loving subjects, and suppress all such malicious errors as begin to spot their calling and disturb the church.
God else forbid. Why, Suffolk, is there any new rupture to disquiet them?
No new, my lord. The old is great enough, and so increasing as, if not cut down, will breed a scandal to your royal state, and set your kingdom quickly in an uproar. The Kentish knight, Lord Cobham, in despite of any law or spiritual discipline, maintains this upstart new religion still, and divers great assemblies by his means and private quarrels are commenced abroad, as by this letter more large my liege is made apparent.
We do find it here. There was in Wales a certain fray of late between 2 noblemen. But what of this? Follows it straight, Lord Cobham must be he did cause the same. I dare be sworn, good knight, he never dreamt of any such contention.
But in his name the quarrel did begin, about the opinion which he held, my liege.
How if it did? Was either he in place to take part with them, or abet them in it? If brabbling fellows whose enkindled blood seethes in their fiery veins will needs go fight, making their quarrels of some words that pass either of you or you among their cups, is the fault yours, or are they guilty of it?
With pardon of your highness, my dread lord, such little sparks neglected may in time grow to a might flame, but that's not all. He doth beside maintain a strange religion, and will not be compelled to come to mass.
We do beseech you, therefore, gracious prince, without offence unto your majesty, we may be bold to use our authority.
As how?
To summon him unto the archers, where such offences have their punishment.
To answer personally? Is that your meaning?
It is, my lord.
How if he appeal?
He cannot, my lord, in such a case as this.
Nor not where the religion is the plea, my lord.
We took it always that ourself stood out as a sufficient refuge, unto whom not any but might lawfully appeal. But we'll not argue now upon that point. For Sir John Oldcastle, whom you accuse, let me entreat you to dispense a while with your high title of preeminence. Report did never yet condemn him so, but he hath always been reputed loyal. And in my knowledge I can say thus much, that he is virtuous, wise, and honourable. If any way his conscience be seduced to waver in his faith, I'll send for him, and school him privately. If that serve not, then afterwards you may proceed against him. Butler, be you the messenger for us, and will him presently to prepare to court.
And exit the king and presumably some others.
How now, my lord, why stand you discontent? In sooth, methinks the king hath well decreed.
Yea, yea, Sir John, if he would keep his word. But I perceive he favours him so much as this will be to small effect, I fear.
Why, then, I'll tell you what y'are best to do. If you suspect the king will be but cold in reprehending him, send you a process to serve upon him, so you may be sure to make him answer tit, however so it fall.
And well remembered. I will have it so. A summoner shall be sent about it straight.
And exit the bishop.
Yea, do so. In the mean space this remains, for kind Sir John of Wrotham, honest Jack, methinks the purse of gold the bishop gave made a good show. It had a tempting look. Beshrew me, but my fingers' ends itch to be upon those ruddocks. Well, 'tis thus. I am not as the world does take me for. If ever wolf were clothed in sheep's coat, then I am he. Old huddle and twang, ye faith, a priest in show, but in plain terms a thief. Yet let me tell you too, an honest thief, one that will take it where it may be spared, and spend it freely in good fellowship. I have as many shapes as Proteus had, that still, when any villainy is done, there may be none suspect it was Sir John. Besides, to comfort me, for what's this life, except the crabbed bitterness thereof be sweetened now and then with lechery? I have my doll, my concubine, as 'twere, to frolic with, a lusty, bouncing girl. But whilst I loiter here, the gold may scape, and that must not be so. It is mine own. Therefore, I'll meet him on his way to court, and shrive him of it. There will be the sport.
And exit Wrotham for his lusty bouncing girl. This play is doing all sorts of interesting work. I mean, we have this sort of very vicey qualities to Wrotham at the end there. That's an interesting callback. Of course, there's this sense, of course, that the play world is Catholic, but they're looking ahead to a Protestant universe, using the word Protestant at a time when the word Protestant doesn't really exist. It's a totally anachronistic point. Helen's been making that in the chat. I mean, even Protestants didn't call themselves Protestants for quite a long time. It's a relatively recent term, and even by the time this play is coming to being. I mean, what's really interesting is also the historical world of, the king wants to go and fight wars in France. We all know the king does these wars in France, as we've all seen the famous victories of Henry V. We know that's sort of what he does, and you could say this play sort of lives in the middle of that play. Actually, it sort of sits in where the interval would be, and of course he wants everything at home to be wrapped up before he goes to sea, and everyone, how's it all going? And he's going, there's some problems. There's some problems going on, and we have sides who are really, really not keen on Cobham, who the king is keen on. King is not keen on this plan to go for him at all. But yeah, all these things. This innovation shall possess their minds. You don't want people having ideas. People having ideas, not good. Not good. Don't want that spreading. So this is doing all sorts of really interesting things. Thoughts in the room? Who wants to leap in? Alan, and then
I mean, there's an interesting one. The discussion there where the king is basically saying, well, aren't I the last judge of appeal? Is sort of a look forward to Henry VIII, isn't it? The disputes over the following the Reformation, but also a look back to Thomas Becket.
Lynn?
Yes, I am intrigued because we can't say bad things about Henry V, so that the play can't be a serious critique of him. But on the other hand, he's the establishment. He's probably going to be on the side of the established church, of the Catholic Church, and that's the wrong side according to the thinking behind this play. So how is it going to navigate keeping Henry, as an admirable character, but also valorizing Oldcastle? I'm just very intrigued to see how we're going to handle that.
Yeah, because it's there's that part of the discussion where they're saying, well, you can't supersede the law on this thing. Well, it's the law of the church, and of course the play writers will be going, well, that church is corrupt. So if Henry's he's saying these things with scorn, I don't quite trust these. So there's an interest. It's playing an interesting. You're right. It's playing this really interesting tightrope between various positions. And then say we have this out and out villain who seems to have asides as well. I think we've got various dashes that are sort of indicating asides without stating asides, where Wrotham at one point sort of going, I would quite like the money that is not a bribe. I love the way they say, now, this big bag of money is not a bribe.
Totally not a bribe.
Totally not a bribe. I just want to make it absolutely clear, this bribe is not a bribe. So, yeah, all sorts of interesting about, where do we put the bishop in this? Because the bishop is not a sympathetic character, but he's not an evil character in the way that Wrotham at the end there comes across as just going, look at me.
Yeah.
Pretty
mustache twirly there, right?
Yeah.
The bishop just wants to hang on to all his privileges. He just wants to keep the status quo and just doesn't like being knocked off his perch.
Helen.
Yes, and the priest is unabashedly breaking every vow he's ever made. He's after money. He's after women. His concubine's called Doll, apparently. So it's laid out for a 1599 audience absolutely plainly. I'm interested that there is no mention of Lollard or Lollardry. I'm not quite sure why not, but there isn't.
Yeah, and it's because this must be dancing something of a tightrope here in certain ways. I mean, about precisely how they discuss these themes, and and how they depict, as Lynn was saying. So it's an interesting question about what terms are safe to use and the way you discuss these things.
Yeah, the Bible on this was Fox's English Martyrs, and he is the person who started off that the Lollards were the precursors of Protestants. And they got it right, and that was what was now believed. I mean, the historians are still debating whether Lollardry actually fed into Protestantism. I'm on the no side, but most serious scholars are on the yes side.
But it's the question of what the the writers of this play think is true as well. They seem to be simplifying it, just going, he's Protestant, and that's the word they've chosen, and it's sort of for better or worse. Lynn?
Oh, I was just going to confirm. So many historians think that Lollardry, it came, it died, and then the Protestant, the Reformation movement that lasted was similar in theme, but sort of arose independently. That's the
same reasons, different outcomes. Okay, we need to move on. But yeah, we've had lots and lots of talk about Lord Cobham, Oldcastle. We haven't, and that's another interesting thing actually about these last two scenes. They're setting up a character who we have not met. Stand by to meet, not entering instantly, but will enter in just a moment. Act 1, Scene 3. Enter 3 or 4 poor people, some soldiers and some old men. first, poor man.
For some reason I thought I was second. Apologies.
No, I'm second.
God help, there's law for punishing, but there's no law for our necessity. There be more stocks to set poor soldiers in than there be houses to relieve them at.
Faith, housekeeping decays in every place. Even the St. Peter writ, still worse and worse.
Master Mayor of Rochester has given commandment that none shall go abroad out of parish, and they have set an order down forsooth what every poor householder must give towards our relief. Where there be some ceased, I may say to you, add almost as much need to beg as we.
It's a hard world the while.
If a poor man come to a door to ask for God's sake, they ask him for a licence or a certificate from a justice.
Faith, we have none but what we bear upon our bodies. Our maimed limbs, God help us.
And yet, as lame as I am, I'll with the king into France. If I can crawl but a shipboard, I'd rather be slain in France than starve in England.
Ah, were I but as lusty as I was at the Battle of Shrewsbury, I would not do as I do. But we're now come to the good Lord Cobham's, to the best man to the poor that's in all Kent.
God bless him. There be but few such.
And having spoken his name, enter Lord Cobham with Harpoole.
Thou peevish, froward man, what wouldst thou have?
This pride brings all to beggary. I served your father and your grandfather. Show me two such men now. No, your backs with the devil and pride has cut the throat of all good housekeeping. They were the best yeomen's masters that ever were in England.
Yea, except thou have a crew of seely knaves and sturdy rogues still feeding at my gate, there is no hospitality with thee.
They may sit at the gate well enough, but the devil of anything you give them, except they will eat stones.
'Tis long, then, of such hungry knaves as you.
And pointing to the beggars.
Yea, sir, here's your retinue, your guests be come. They know their hours, I warrant you.
God bless your honour. God save the good Lord Cobham and all his house.
Good your honour, bestow your blessed arms upon poor men.
Now, sir, here be your alms knights. Now are you as safe as the emperor.
My alms knights, nay, they're yours. 'Tis a shame for you, and I'll stand to it. Your foolish alms maintains more vagabonds than all the noblemen in Kent. Out, you rogues, you knaves, work for your livings. Alas, poor men. Oh, Lord, they may beg their hearts out, but there's no more charity among men than among so many mastiff dogs. What make you here, you needy knaves? Away, you villains.
I beseech you, sir, be good to us.
Nay, they know thee well enough. I think that all the beggars in this land are thy acquaintance. Go, bestow your alms, none will control you, sir.
What shall I give them? You are grown so beggarly you have scarce a bit of bread to give at your door. You talk of your religion so long that you have banished charity from amongst you. A man may make a flax shop in your kitchen chimney, for any fire there is stirring.
If thou wilt give them nothing, send them hence. Let them not stand here starving in the cold.
Who? I drive them hence? If I drive poor men from your door, I'll be hanged. I know not what I may come to myself. Yea, God help you, poor knaves. You see the world of faith. Well, you had a mother. Well, God be with you, good lady, thy soul's at rest. She gave more in shirts and smocks to poor children than you spend in your house, and yet you live a beggar too.
Even the worst deed that e'er my mother did was in relieving such a fool as thou.
Yea, I am a fool still. With all your wit you will die a beggar. Go to.
Go, you old fool, give the poor people something. Go in, poor men, into the inner court, and take such alms as there is to be had.
God bless your honour.
Hang you, rogues, hang you. There's nothing but misery amongst you. No fear, no law, you.
And exit Harpoole.
God bless you, good Master Rafe. God save your life. You are good to the poor still.
And here enter the Lord Powis, disguised and shroud himself.
What fellows yonder comes along the grove? Few passengers there be that know this way. Methinks he stops as though he stayed for me, and meant to shroud himself amongst the bushes. I know the clergy hate me to the death, and my religion gets me many foes. And this may be some desperate rogue suborned to work me mischief. As it pleaseth God, if he come toward me, sure I'll stay his coming, be he but one man, whatsoe'er he be.
And the Lord Powis comes on.
I have been well acquainted with that face.
Well met, my honourable lord and friend.
You are welcome, sir, whate'er you be, but of this sudden, sir, I do not know you.
I am one that wisheth well unto your honour. My name is Powis, an old friend of yours.
My honourable lord and worthy friend, what makes your lordship thus alone in Kent, and thus disguised in this strange attire?
My lord, an unexpected accident hath at this time enforced me to these parts, and thus it happed. Not yet full 5 days since, now at the last assize at Hereford, it chanced that the Lord Herbert and myself, amongst other things, discoursing at the table, did fall in speech about some certain points of Wycliffe's doctrine against the papacy and the religion Catholic, maintained through the most part of Europe at this day. This wilful, testy lord stuck not to say that Wycliffe was a knave, a schismatic, his doctrine devilish and heretical, and whatsoever he was maintained, the same was traitor both to God and to his country. Being moved at his peremptory speech, I told him some maintained those opinions, men and truer subjects than Lord Herbert was. And he, replying in comparisons, your name was urged, my lord, against his challenge, to be a perfect favourer of the truth. And to be short, from words we fell to blows, our servants and our tenants taking parts, many on both sides hurt, and for an hour the broil by no means could be pacified, until the judges, rising from the bench, were in their persons forced to part the fray.
I hope no man was violently slain.
Faith, none I trust, but the Lord Herbert's self, who is in truth so dangerously hurt, as it is doubted he can hardly scape.
I am sorry, my good lord, of these ill news.
It is the cause that drives me into Kent, to shroud myself with you, so good a friend, until I hear how things do speed at home.
Your lordship is most welcome unto Cobham, but I am very sorry, my good lord, my name was brought into question in this matter, considering I have many enemies that threaten malice and do lie in wait to take advantage of the smallest thing. But you are welcome, and repose your lordship, and keep yourself here secret in my house, until we hear how the Lord Herbert speeds. Here comes my man.
Enter Harpoole.
Sirrah, what news?
Yonder's one Master Butler with the Privy Chamber. Master Butler of the Privy Chamber is sent unto you from the king.
I pray God the Lord Herbert be not dead, and the king, hearing whither I am gone, hath sent for me.
Comfort yourself, my lord, I warrant you.
Fellow, what ails thee? Dost thou quake? Dost thou shake? Dost thou tremble, ha?
Peace, you old fool. Sirrah, convey this gentleman in the back way, and bring the other into the walk.
Come, sir, you are welcome, if you love my lord.
God have mercy, gentle friend.
And exit them, leaving Cobham.
I thought as much, that it would not be long before I heard of something from the king about this matter.
And enter Harpoole with Master Butler.
Sir, yonder my lord walks, you see him. I'll have your men into the cellar for the while.
Welcome, good Master Butler.
Thanks, my good lord. His Majesty doth commend his love unto your lordship, and wills you to repair into the court.
God bless his highness and confound his enemies. I hope his majesty is well.
In health, my lord.
God long continue it. Methinks you look as though you were not well. What ails you, sir?
Faith, I've had a foolish odd mischance that angers me. Coming over Shooter's Hill, there came a fella to me, like a sailor, and asked me money. And whilst I stayed my horse to draw my purse, he takes the advantage of a little bank and leaps behind me, whips my purse away, and with a sudden jerk, I know not how, threw me at least 3 yards out of my saddle. I never was so rubbed in all my life.
I am very sorry, sir, for your mischance. We will send our warrant forth to stay such suspicious persons as shall be found. Then, Master Butler, we will attend you.
I humbly thank your lordship. I will attend you.
And we can assume that some sort of exiting occurs here, as that's the end of that particular scene. Oh, poor Butler having been horribly robbed on the road from all that, presumably that lovely, was that the lovely money he got given last scene? Butler was offered a purse in the last scene. So, yeah, it looks like he
gone now.
All gone.
He's lost it.
Yeah. Poor chap. So basically, the function of the scene is Cobham. What a great guy! What a guy! All the beggars think so. All those poor men, etc. Old soldiers, by the looks of it. Yeah. So he's great. Harpoole is much more of the they're just lazy poor people. Don't give them any poor relief, because that will just encourage them to still be poor.
It's kind of, I was having a hard time knowing where to have him, because he says something about your father and your grandfather were generous. We're generous men, and you live this beggarly life. So I would have to look more closely at that scene and do a little investigating to kind of understand what what's his actual take on this situation.
I think it's maybe that it's the creature comforts for the household staff and not what they should be. So it's like you don't you never have any fires in the house. Is it something? It might be something like that. But the perks of being a servant to a great man are not as apparent with this one, because he keeps being nice to poor people. Maybe that. I think you're right. It's not quite clear yet, is it?
He lives a more austere life than
plain chap. And then, of course, we have a connection with the first scene. Of course, all these people who are fighting over him. One of them pops in and says, "Hi, we were having all these fights about you," and Cobham's not that pleased about that news. Actually, he's just going, "Would you rather you didn't fight over me? That the people would really like to use that against me," and he's right. Yeah. Again, doing all sorts of interesting business and creating. And I say just the little detail about what's going on with the Butler and being robbed, and how Butler was robbed. Fellow like a sailor. Interesting. Yeah. Thoughts from the room. I think I saw Rachael waving earlier, but I may have imagined it.
No. I know in the chat Helen said not to get her started on parish relief and licenses to beg, but I feel like that is this is very hard to follow, because this is very I don't know, this is such a bunch of specific stuff that is very English, that are all blank spaces for me mentally, that I'm missing in this play, and it's making it difficult for me to understand.
Well, yeah, like the word sturdy has a specific meaning in the period. A sturdy beggar was someone who was not physically unable to work and therefore had no right to beg. Yes? No? confirmation from the actual expert.
Yeah. No, that's leading.
Yeah, it's the concept we have later of the deserving and undeserving poor, which has created so much misery in the world. But it goes all the way back to here. But then again, the play world is not necessarily a medieval world. It's constantly talking about the world of late Elizabethan London rather than necessarily a medieval world picture, because medieval world, the kind of relief you would have for the poor might be more associated with the church, because you had a far greater social safety net that existed thanks to the various monasteries and almshouses that you had up and down the country. But this play world is much more in that post medieval world. So it's doing all sorts of interesting things with history, of playing with different lenses. Helen, do you want to leap in? You said you didn't want to. So.
Yeah, I think I'm going to have to. This is the 1590s. It's the end of the 1590s. England had been at war since the middle of the 1580s. The government had run out of money. There had been some appalling harvests. So the cost of food had gone up and up and up. And they decided to try and do something about the enormous numbers of poor who were traveling around the place, who were exacerbated by the soldiers and sailors who were had been wounded, disabled, or discharged, and were causing a lot, and everything was going to hell. And so they put it on the parish, which of course really annoyed the parishes. And they also instituted through the parishes a fairly coercive system, whereby if you weren't properly registered, you would be beaten. You were not allowed to beg if you could work, but there wasn't the work. I mean, it was unspeakably awful. And at this point, it hadn't settled down into a proper system. I mean, when it did settle down into a proper system, it was still absolutely frightful. But at this point, it was complicated.
Any other thoughts about the scene or Cobham and the various other things going on there, Alan?
Yeah, just a script note. I think the old man must exit before the entrance of Powis. It's not cued as such.
I assume that's the exit light. The exit there is with Harpoole effectively, and effectively.
God bless you, sir. God bless you.
Yeah,
sir.
that's an exit point. Yeah. If the exit is one line ahead, then that's not unusual in that sort of thing. Lynn,
I wonder if we should say something about rank here, just to clarify this, because Lord Cobham is not. He doesn't have a title. He's not an earl or a marquis or a what are they? The mnemonic is: do men ever visit Boston? Duke, Marquis, Earl, Viscount. He's
a baron.
Is he a baron? Is he a baron? Okay.
Well, he can't. He must be, otherwise he wouldn't be called lord.
Okay. But because Harpoole refers to him as a yeoman, who is the sort of upper end of the non-aristocratic ranks, right?
Depends where you are. But I would say, on the whole, that he may be of yeoman stock, but he's definitely got a peerage.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Alan.
Yeah, I'm almost thinking that Cobham is analogous to Thomas of Woodstock without the royal familial link. An honest country-based gentleman of reasonable means.
Yeah, it does seem to be that honest guy look is what it's all about there, isn't it? Yeah, it might be the relationship with Harpoole there is also that he's going, that's just how you're appearing to people, that he's not actually that low down the social status. Let's get some more data as we're going to go into the next scene, Act 2, Scene 1, as it's here. Enter the Sumner.
I have the law to warrant what I do, and though the Lord Cobham be a noble man, that dispenses not with law. I dare serve process were he 5 noblemen. Though we Sumners make sometimes a mad slip in a corner with a pretty wench, a Sumner must not go always by seeing. A man may be content to hide his eyes where he may feel his profit. Well, this is my Lord Cobham's house, if I can devise to speak with him. If not, I'll clap my citations upon his door. So my Lord of Rochester bid me. But methinks here comes one of his men.
And on enter Harpoole.
Welcome, good fellow, welcome. Who wouldst thou speak with?
With my Lord Cobham I would speak, if thou be one of his men.
Yes, I am one of his men, but thou canst not speak with my lord.
May I send to him then?
I'll tell thee that when I know thy errand.
I will not tell my errand to thee.
Then keep it to thyself, and walk like a knave as thou camest.
I tell thee, my lord keeps no knave, sirrah.
Then thou servest him not, I believe. What lord is thy master?
My Lord of Rochester.
In good time. And what wouldst thou have with my Lord Cobham?
I come by virtue of a process to accite him to appear before my lord in the court at Rochester.
Well, God grant me patience. I could eat this conjure. My lord is not at home. Therefore, it were good, Sumner, you carried your process back.
Why, if he will not be spoken withal, then I will leave it here, and see you that he take knowledge of it.
Swoons, you slave, do you set up your bills here? Go to, take it down again. Dost thou know what thou dost? Dost thou know on whom thou servest process?
Yes, marry do I, Sir John Oldcastle, Lord Cobham.
I am glad thou knowest him yet. And, sirrah, dost thou know that the Lord Cobham is a brave lord that keeps good beef and beer in his house, and every day feeds 100 people at his gate, and keeps 100 tall fellows?
Well, what's that to my process?
Marry, this, sir, is this process parchment?
Yes, marry.
And is this seal wax?
It is so.
If this be parchment and this wax, eat you this parchment and this wax, and I will make your parchment of your skin, beat your brains into wax. Sirrah Sumner, dispatch, devour, sirrah, devour.
I am my Lord of Rochester, Sumner. I came to do my office, and thou shalt answer it.
Sirrah, no railing, but betake you to your teeth. Thou shalt eat no worse than thou bringest with thee. Thou bringest it to my lord, and thou wilt bring my lord worse than thou wilt eat thyself.
Sirrah, I brought it not, my lord, to eat.
Oh, do you sir me now? All's one for that. I'll make you eat it for bringing it.
I cannot eat it.
Can you not? Sblood, I'll beat you until you have a stomach.
And he beats him.
I'm Hulk, master, servant. Right, I'll eat it.
Be champing, be chawing, sir, or I'll chaw you, you rogue. The purest of the honey. Tough wax is the purest of the honey.
Oh, Lord, sir. Oh.
And yes, he, yeah.
Good big had to play pandy.
Yeah, he eats.
Indeed, wholesome rogue, wholesome. Cannot you, like an honest Sumner, walk with the devil your brother to fetch in your bailiff's rent? But you must come to a nobleman's house with a process. Blood, if thy seal were as broad as the lead that covers Rochester Church, thou shouldst eat it.
Oh, I'm almost choked.
Will you shame, my lord? Is there no beer in the house? Butler, I say.
Enter Butler.
Here.
Give him beer.
And he
sir,
drinks.
let me go no further. I'll eat my word.
Yes, marry, sit. So I mean, you shall eat more than your own word, for I'll make you eat all the words in the process. Why, you drabmonger, cannot the secrets of all the wenches in the shire serve your turn, but you must come hither with a citation. With a pox, I'll cite you. A cup of sack for the Sumner.
Here, sir, here.
Here, slave, a drink to thee.
Oh, sir, let me... Sorry. Sir, thank you, sir.
Now, if thou find'st thy stomach well, because thou shalt see my lord keeps meat in his house, thou wilt go in. Thou shalt have a piece of beef to thy breakfast.
No, I'm very well, good master serving man. I thank you very well, sir.
I'm glad on it. Then be walking towards Rochester to keep your stomach warm. And Sumner, if I may know you disturb a good wench within this diocese, if I do not make thee eat her petticoat, if there were 4 yards of Kentish cloth in it, I'm a villain.
God be with you, master serving man.
And exit Sumner.
Farewell, Sumner.
And enter Constable.
God save you, Master Harpoole.
Welcome, Constable. Welcome, Constable. What's news with thee?
God please you, Master Harpoole. I'm to make hue and cry. A fellow with one eye that has robbed 2 clothiers, and am to crave your hindrance for to search all suspected places. And they say there was a woman in the company.
Hast thou been at the alehouse? Hast thou sought there?
I durst not search it, sir, in my Lord Cobham's liberty, except I had some of his servants, which are for my warrant.
An honest constable. An honest constable. Call forth him that keeps the alehouse here.
Oh, who's within there?
And enter the aleman. Do we have an aleman available?
Sarah.
Yes.
Sorry. Who calls there? Come nearer, God's name. Oh, it's you, Master Constable and Master Harpoole? You are welcome with all my heart. And what make you here so early this morning?
Sirrah, what strangers do you lodge? There is a robbery done this morning, and we are to search for all suspected persons.
God's brawls, I am sorry for it. I' faith, sir, I lodge nobody but a good honest merry priest. They call him Sir John of Wrotham, and an handsome woman, that is his niece, that he says has some suit in law for, and as they go up and down to London, sometimes they lie at my house.
What, is he here in thy house now?
She is, sir. I promise you, sir, he is a quiet man, and because he will not trouble too many rooms, he makes the woman lie every night at his bed's feet.
Bring her forth, Constable, bring her forth. Let's see her, let's see her.
Dorothy, you must come down to Master Constable.
Anon, forsooth.
And she enters.
Welcome, sweet lass, welcome.
I thank you, good master serving man, and master constable also.
A plump girl, by the mass, a plump girl, ha, doll. Ha, wilt thou forsake the priest and go with me?
Ah, well said, Master Harpoole. You're a merry old man, i' faith. Faith, you'll never be old. Now, by the mac, a pretty wench indeed.
The old mad merry constable, thou art advised of that. Ha, well said, doll. Fill some ale here.
Oh, if I wist this old priest would not stick to me, by Jove, I would ingle this old serving man.
You old mad colt in faith, I'll feek you. Fill all the pots in the house here.
Oh, well said, Master Harpoole. You're heart of oak when all's done.
Ha, doll, thou hast a sweet pair of lips, by the mass.
Truly, you are a most sweet old man, as ever I saw. By my troth, you have a face able to make any woman in love with you.
Fill, sweet doll, I'll drink to thee.
I pledge you, sir, and thank you therefore, and I pray you let it come.
Doll, canst thou love me, a mad merry lass? Would to God I had never seen thee.
I warrant you, you will not out of my thoughts this 12-month. Truly you are as full of favour as a man may be. Ah, these sweet grey locks, by my troth, they are most lovely.
Odds bores, Master Harpoole. I will have one bust too.
No licking for you, Constable. Hand off, hand off.
Well, lady, I love kissing as well as you.
Oh, you are an odd boy. You have a wanton eye of your own. Ah, you sweet sugar-lipped wanton. You will win as many women's hearts as come in your company.
And enter the priest, Wrotham.
Doll, come here.
Priest, she shall not.
I'll come anon, sweet love.
Hand off, old fornicator.
Vicar, I'll sit here in spite of thee. Is this fit stuff for a priest to carry up and down with him?
Ah, sirrah, dost thou not know that a good fellow parson may have a chapel of ease where his parish church is far off?
You horse and stoned vicar.
You old stale ruffian, you lion of Cotswold.
Swoons, vicar, I'll geld you.
And flies upon him.
Keep the king's peace.
Murder, murder, murder.
Hold! As you are men, hold! For God's sake, be quiet! Put up your weapons. You draw not in my house.
You horse and body priest.
You old mutton monger.
Hold, Sir John, hold.
I pray thee, sweet hear, be quiet. I was but sitting to drink a pot of ale with him, even as kind a man as ever I met with.
Thou art a thief, I warrant thee.
Then I am but as thou hast been in thy days. Let's not be ashamed of our trade. The king has been a thief himself.
Come, be quiet. Hast thou sped?
I have, wench. Here be crowns, if faith.
Come, let's be all friends then.
Well said, Mistress Dorothy, of faith.
Thou art the maddest priest that e'er I met with.
Give me thy hand, thou art as good a fellow. I am a singer, a drinker, a bencher, a wencher. I can say a mass and kiss a lass. Faith, I have a parsonage, and because I would not be at too much charges, this wench serves me for a sexton.
Well said, mad priest. We'll in and be friends.
And they exit. Okay, quite a lot to unpack there. I mean, it's the way Wrotham is coming back, sort of leading us back to a sort of Friar Tuck kind of figure that we've had in the distant past, of a very lascivious priest kind of figure. We've got all sorts of interesting callbacks here to other texts as well. We going all the way back to the summoner turning up to deliver the writ to Lord Cobham, who's away, and Harpoole forcing him to eat the wax seal and the actual summons itself. Sending us all the way back to Georgia Green, a play that we've done first and second look sessions on. We can highly recommend Georgia Green. It's super fun. It features, shall we say, Robin Hood's greatest fan. And several excessive fight scenes and just a lot of silliness, and it's a really fun play. And yeah, this scene is explicitly seems to be just taking, well, we've had someone force feeding somebody a writ before, went down good in that play, let's just cut it out and pull it in this one. And yeah, it's good business. I'm not quite sure how the business with the wine that the drink, the beer that follows, how that works. Is it Harpoole sort of drinking it all himself, or is he and just sort of tormenting the poor bugger even further? Yeah, I think I'll just stick to the first half of the scene for a moment. We'll get to the second half in a moment. I just think we sometimes can forget the early part of a scene when the scene is so crowded with incident. Thoughts from the room about the Summoner and Harpoole sequence, Alan?
Yeah, I mean, I put in the chat. I think it's almost a classic two Jobsworths basically having a fight. You know, you can't park there. Well, I've always parked there. And I mean, the Summoner just reminded me so much of the Chaucer character. You know, so it's a trope of, you know, considerable vintage even by this time.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's that question of how much of Anthony Munday is in this, because that's the kind of business that we know from his other work that he would pick up on, because he's interested in early history and early text. That's why I sort of mentioned that Friar Tuck connection with Wrotham, but that could be completely coincidental and not actually be a part written by Anthony Munday. So, but I thought I'd throw that in. Other thoughts on the Summoner and Harpoole at this time? Harpoole does definitely have a distinct character. Even if we're not quite sure of his motivations at times. Because he's quite happy at this point to say, "My master's great. Look at all these poor people he feeds."
Well, yes, they're all very. I mean, they tick off. Harpoole ticks off the Sumner for getting off with wenches and warns him that he mustn't be caught or will have to eat their petticoats. So in the next scene, he's kind of all hands over Doll. So yeah, they're none of them very consistent in their morality, are they?
Helen.
Yeah, the church court of which the Sumner is an officer was sometimes called the Bawdy Court because part of its jurisdiction was morality. So this is why Harpoole is saying the secrets of all the wenches in the Shire, and if I may know you disturb a good wench within this diocese, if I do not make you thee eat her petticoat. I mean, this is because the church court, well, all the cases that everyone remembered were the ones where of fornication and adultery and other problems.
Enjoyable pursuits, yes. So we return to the question of robbery. This constable enters and is talking about the robbery, and they're sort of going, well, it might be. There's questions here about Sir John Wrotham, and of course Doll. So yes, Doll, and the relationship that all the men here are trying to have with Doll in creepy ways, and yeah, the way all that is working, and the way that Doll is trying to work the room as well, and how that's all holding together. There's a bit in quotes from Doll. I don't know if that's just a quote that she's doing or that's a song at that point, whether there's something that Doll's singing. So yeah, thoughts in the room now about about Doll and these people, Lynn.
So I have a question. So am I right in understanding that Wrotham basically disguised himself and stole back his bribe from the butler?
Possibly.
Here's some crowns.
He knows about the money because he was there when the money was handed over, and he said he was really keen on it. So yeah, that's what I think's implied. I don't think we've got a. I think he does actually state it in an aside at one point that yeah, I've got the gold or whatever. So yeah, it does look like that's what's happened between scenes.
Yeah, I also had a thought about Harpoole. He's sort of a precursor of. I think it's Wasp in Johnson's Bartholomew Fair. It was just like, he's this old, contrary fellow. Whatever you say, he will disagree with it.
Yeah, and so they end up fighting over. But it's interesting because, of course, the distraction of the fight and distracts the constable, etc., from why he's here. Because, of course, he's here in theory to be chasing up Wrotham about this alleged thieving, and they all get distracted. So is actually the scene that's going on with Dol, is this actually a deliberate distraction technique going on here? Is there more to this scene than we're or is it just a load of lascivious mutton mongers, as it
Well,
were?
for the first time, I don't see any politics in it.
Or not big P politics, anyway.
No.
No.
Gender politics, probably. I think Dol is looking for the main chance.
There is a discussion about money and who's got money, and we do have asides from Dol as well. So maybe there is that element going on there. Not sure. Any thoughts in the room on that before we go on? We have 2 scenes to do before we close the session. Elizabeth, you were Dol.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying the play so far, but I love how the characters are drawn. They're very lifelike, and they really kind of jump off the page. So you kind of get almost caught up in their shenanigans. I was thinking of like an Aaron Sorkin drama. So the kind of the playoff and the banter between the characters. Even when Dol comes on, she's quite saucy and she's quite quick until they start fighting, and she shouts murder, murder, murder. And I thought it was really interesting that she shouts that because who is she trying to defend here? Is she trying to defend Wrotham, or is it someone else?
Or is she just trying to make the scene seem more extreme than it is to, again, distract from everything? Yeah, I think there's all sorts of things that could be going on here. And then she's conciliatory and pulling people down in different directions. Yeah, it's really... I'm not sure where the centre of gravity with this scene is, if that is the best way of putting it. There's a lot going on. Rachael?
I just thought it was one of those, this is what Catholic priests do type of scenes. And I'm not sure if I'm right, but I thought Dol was like a call girl or like a something like that for this one priest.
The name Dol does suggest that.
Yeah.
On some level. And certainly Rotham's speech at the end of, I am a singer, a drinker, a bencher, a wencher, is very much a callback to that kind of Friar Tuck dialogue that we've had earlier in older texts. And also his sort of vice-like declaration to the audience earlier. Anyway, we need to move on. We have 2 more scenes. Act 2, Scene 2. Enter Sir Roger Acton, Master Bourne, Master Beverley, and William Murley, the brewer of Dunstable.
Now, Master Murley, I am well assured you know our errand and do like the cause, being a man affected as we are.
Harry God did ye, dainty my dear, no master, good Sir Roger Acton, knight, Master Bourne and Master Beverley, esquires, gentlemen, and justices of the peace. No master I, but plain William Murley, the brewer of Dunstable, your honest neighbour and your friend, if ye be men of my profession.
Professed friends to Wycliffe, foes to Rome.
Hold by me, lad, lean upon that staff, good Master Beverley, all of house, say your mind, say your mind.
You know our faction now is growing so great throughout the realm that it begins to smoke into the clergy's eyes and the king's ear. High time it is that we were drawn to head, our general and officers appointed, and wars, you wot, will ask great store of coin, able to strengthen our action with your purse. You are elected for a colonel over a regiment of 15 bands.
Fie, paltry, in and out, to and fro, be it more or less upon occasion. Lord have mercy upon us, what a world is this? Sir Roger Acton, I am but a Dunstable man, a plain brewer, you know. will lusty cavaliering captains, gentlemen, come at my calling, go at my bidding? Dainty, my dear, they'll do a god of war, a horse or cheese, a prick and a pudding. Now ye must appoint some lord or knight at least to that place.
Why, Master Murley, you shall be a knight. Were you not in election to be Shreve? Have you not passed all offices but that? Have you not wealth to make your wife a lady? I warrant you, my lord, our general bestows that honour on you at first sight.
My God, did ye? Dainty, my dear. But tell me, who shall be our general? Where's the Lord Cobham, Sir John Oldcastle, that noble almsgiver, housekeeper, virtuous, religious gentleman? Come to me there, boys. Come to me there.
Why, who but he shall be our general?
Shall he knight me and make me colonel?
My word for that, Sir William Murley Knight.
Fellow Sir Richard Acton, knight, old fellows, I'm in arms. How strong are we? How many partners? Our enemies besides the king are might, be it more or less upon occasion, reckon our force.
There are of us, our friends and followers, 3,300 at the least. Of northern lads, 4,000 beside horse. From Kent there comes with Sir John Oldcastle, 7,000. Then from London issue out of masters, servants, strangers, prentices, 40-odd thousands into Ficket Field, where we appoint our special rendezvous.
Right, poultry in and out, poultry to and fro. Lord have mercy upon us. What world is this? Where's that Ficket Field, Sir Roger?
Behind St. Giles in the field, but near Old Holborn.
Newgate, up Oldman, St. Giles in the field, and to Tyburn and Old Saw. For the day.
On Friday next, the 14th day of January.
Tilly Valley, trust me never if I've any liking of that day. Aye, poultry. Friday, quotha. Dismal day. Childermas Day this year was Friday.
Nay, Master Murley. Nay, Master Murley, if you observe the days, we make some question of your constancy. All days alike to men resolved and right.
Say amen and say no more, but say an old master Beverley, Friday next, and Ficket Field, and William Murray and his merry men shall all be all one. Of our score jades that draw my beer carts, and every jade shall bear a jack, and every knave shall wear a jack, and every jack shall have a skull, and every skull shall show a spear, and every spear shall kill a foe. At Ficket Field, John and Tom and Dick and Hodge and Rafe and Robin, William and George, and all my knaves shall fight like men at Ficket Field on Friday next.
What sum of money mean you to disperse?
Maybe modestly, decently, soberly, and handsomely. I may bring £500.
500, man. 5,000's not enough. 100,000 will not pay our men 2 months together. Either come prepared like a brave knight and martial colonel in glittering gold and gallant furniture, bringing coin and cart a load at the least, and all your followers mounted on good horse, or never come disgraceful to us at all.
Perchance you may be chosen treasurer, £10,000 the least that you can bring.
Poultry, in and out, to and fro. On occasion I have £10,000 to spend, and 10 too. And rather than the bishop shall have his will of me for my conscience, shall I have all. Flame and flax, got with water and malt, they shall fly with fire and gunpowder. Sir Roger, cartload of money till the axe tree crack, myself and my men in Ficket Field on Friday next. Remember my knighthood and my place. There's my hand, I'll be there.
And exit Murley.
See what ambition may persuade men to. In hope of honour he will spend himself.
I never thought a brewer half so rich.
Was never banker out, brewer yet but one, with using too much malt, too little water.
That's no fault in brewers nowadays. Come away about our business.
And they exit. Another really interesting scene here about this sort of secret meeting planning, and basically these people who are working Murley, you know, they're going, hey, you're the man, we'll make you you'll become a be knighted and stuff, and you know, he's really proud, he's got £500 to go, whoa, no, we need more than that, mate, you know, and because, you know, and then that innuendo at the end that brewers may water down their beer.
Never been known.
Never been known. You don't see a bankrupt of a brewer. There's always a demand. And all these numbers: 3,000, 4,000, 7,000. Sir John Oldcastle is with us. No, he's not. So the way this is working, what, you know, how much of this is people are they fooling this guy? Are they fooling themselves? So many questions about what's going on here. Thoughts from the room? We've got a few minutes because we've got another scene to do. Briefly, does anyone have any thoughts about Murley or the others? Helen.
Though it speaks to a problem of the time, that there were people who were of no family and no birth, but who could actually buy out the ancient nobility because they had made so much money in business. And this was something that was constantly being noted as a sign of degeneration of the times for some people, and it was seen as a problem, and this is obviously an example of it. If you look in Fox, it's sometimes thought that an awful lot of these people were extremely poor. And the martyrs under Queen Mary were extremely poor because they're down as bricklayers or brewers, but in fact, most of them were serious businessmen. And if you own 6 brickworks, you're not a member of the labouring classes.
Other thoughts? Eric?
The whole sort of, you know, you're going to be a knight, you're going to be a captain, you're going to be marshal, colonel, so on and so forth. Felt a bit like sort of that shtick that you have to sort of, you know, trying to sell someone the Eiffel Tower because you totally own it, but, you know, you don't.
Yeah, and you know, the way this all is negotiated, and it's going to be on Friday. Oh, I don't like Friday. No, it's a great day. Okay, I like Friday. And there's a lot of that going on of, you know, we want to do this. Not sure about doing that. Okay, no, we'll do that. That'll be fine. And yeah.
It's this kind of parody of a kind of rousing speech. You know, we're going to do this on this day, and it's quite. It's almost like he's imagining himself as a great leader, rousing his men.
Well, I mean, what is this rebellion, as it were? You know, who are, you know, what? How is it all working? You know, what do they really expect? I'm finding it's Acton and Beverley and all that lot's motivations and what they actually, because they seem much more clued in. And yet they're organising this. I'm not sure what their end game really is here, because, you know, do they really believe all this stuff? Alan, then Rachael.
I'm just wondering whether there's a tune that goes with that longish speech from Murley.
It does look like a song.
It feels like it could carry a tune, doesn't it?
Yeah, it looks like it should be a song, or you know, he suddenly gets a sang and he starts beating a time or something for it, because it is very like that, isn't it?
I mean, it almost goes to Lily Bolero.
Rachael.
I don't know if Alan was just talking about the part where Murley switches from prose to verse, but I just wanted to point out that part because there's something that just reminds me of that Robert, Earl of Huntington, you know, his weird switch into scout, you know, how we were talking about Friar Tuck and stuff like this. That seems like some part of that little bit of the writing. fits like with that style.
We've got a bit of this in Life and Death of Jack Straw as well. The Tom Miller, I think, jumps into this kind of thing, and it feels. I think Alan's right. It may be that's actually to be sung. That feels very plausible. But yeah, playing around with different verse forms for different things may have a tangential connection, though it is a different verse form from the Skeltonics and the stuff that that iteration of Friar Tuck was doing in the Huntington plays. Eric.
Well, to me, it seems a bit like, well, I mean, even if it's not a song, or even if it is, I guess, not just that part, but like most of Murley's speech seems to be like gaining momentum in the way like an auctioneer would, or I don't know, just sort of like someone who's commentating on football, like sort of, and he passes to so on, and then go, and you know, kind of like building up that energy. But it's just really out of place in this kind of scene.
Well, it's nice because immediately it's undercut by the next line, you know, and how much money are you going to give to the cause? So it's like he's done all this, and it's the difference between the other actors in this scene and Murley is really striking, and it feels like the whole thing's a con, that they don't actually believe in it, and they're just trying to con him out of money and let him then carry the can. I don't think the play is doing that. Anyway, we've got another scene we need to read before we close. Oh, Rachel, very briefly.
No, I posted in the chat. It's just like it's such an odd place, like an out of place to come in with the song, like how in that Robert Earl of Huntington, the Skeltonics would come out of nowhere, and I mean, it didn't come out of nowhere, but you know what I mean. It's just an odd thing to go into, but that. It says something about his character, but it's just unexpected. I think in the writing a bit for me.
Yeah, because for the viewers at home, much of Murley's dialogue is written out in prose. That doesn't mean it is in prose. There's some interesting questions I need to examine about how some of the verse and the prose flows, because sometimes it looks like it could be verse and sometimes it doesn't, and that's a disentanglement problem for other people who care. So we're going to go on to Act 2, Scene 3. King Henry enters with Suffolk. Butler Oldcastle is kneeling to the king.
'Tis not enough, Lord Cobham, to submit. You must forsake your gross opinion. The bishops find themselves much injured, and though for some good service you have done, we for our part are pleased to pardon you, yet they will not so soon be satisfied.
My gracious lord, unto your majesty, next unto my God, I owe my life, and what is mine, either by nature's gift or fortune's bounty, all is at your service. But for obedience to the Pope of Rome, I owe him none, nor shall his shaveling priests that are in England alter my belief. If, out of Holy Scripture, they can prove that I am in an error, I will yield, and gladly take instruction at their hands, but otherwise I do beseech your grace my conscience may not be encroached upon.
We would be loath to press our subjects' bodies, much less their souls, the dear redeemed part of him that is the ruler of us all. Yet let me counsel ye that might command. Do not presume to tempt them with ill words, nor suffer any meetings to be had within your house, but to the uttermost disperse the flocks of this new gathering sect.
My liege, if any breathe that dares come forth and say my life in any of these points deserves the attainder of ignoble thoughts, here stand I, craving no remorse at all, but even the utmost rigour may be shown.
Let it suffice. We know your loyalty. What have you there?
A deed of clemency, your highness pardon for Lord Powis' life, which I did beg, and you, my noble lord, of gracious favour did vouchsafe to grant.
But yet it is not signed with our hand.
Not yet, my liege.
And one is ready with pen and ink.
The fact, you say, was done not of propensed malice, but by chance?
Upon mine honour so, no otherwise.
There is his pardon. Bid him make amends, and cleanse his soul to God for his offence. What we remit is but the body's scourge.
Enter the bishop.
Ah, how now, Lord Bishop?
Justice, dread sovereign. As thou art king, so grant I may have justice.
What means this exclamation? Let us know.
O my good lord, the state's abused, and our decrees most shamefully profaned.
How? Or by whom?
Even by this heretic, this Jew, this traitor to your majesty.
Prelate, thou liest even in thy greasy maw, or whosoever twits me with the name of either traitor or of heretic.
Forbear, I say. And, Bishop, show the cause from whence this late abuse hath been derived.
Thus, mighty king, by general consent, a messenger was sent to cite this lord, to make appearance in the consistory, and coming to his house, a ruffian slave, one of his daily followers, met the man, who, knowing him to be a parroter, assaults him first, and after, in contempt of us and our proceedings, makes him cate the written process, parchment, scale, and all, whereby his master neither was brought forth, nor we but scorned for our authority.
When was this done?
At 6 o'clock this morning.
And when came you to court?
Last night, my lord.
By this it seems he is not guilty of it, and you have done him wrong to accuse him so.
But it was done, my lord, by his appointment, or else his man durst ne'er been so bold.
Or else you durst be so bold to interrupt, and fill our ears with frivolous complaints. Is this the duty you do bear to us? Was not sufficient we did pass our word to send for him, but you, misdoubting it, or, which is worse, intending to forestall our regal power, must likewise summon him. This savours of ambition, not of zeal, and rather proves you malice his estate than any way that he offends the law. Go to, we like it not. And he, your officer, that was employed so much amiss herein, had his desert for being insolent.
Into Huntington.
So, Cobham, when you please, you may depart.
I humbly bid farewell unto my liege.
And
Farewell.
Exit Cobham.
What's the news by Huntington?
Sir Roger Acton and a crew, my lord, of bold seditious rebels are in arms, intending reformation of religion, and with their army they intend to pitch in Thicket Field unless they be repulsed.
So near our presence. Dare they be so bold? And will proud war and eager thirst of blood, whom we had thought of to entertain far off, press forth upon us in our native bounds? Must we be forced to hansel our sharp blades in England here, which we prepared for France? Well, a god's name be it. What's their number, say? Or who's the chief commander of this rout?
Their number is not known as yet, my lord, but 'tis reported Sir John Oldcastle is the chief man on whom they do depend.
How? The Lord Cobham?
Yes, my gracious lord.
I could have told your majesty as much before he went, but that I saw your grace was too much blinded by his flattery.
Okay, send post, my lord, to fetch him back again.
Traitor unto his country. How he smoothed and seemed as innocent as truth itself.
I cannot think it yet he would be false. But if he be, no matter. Let him go. We'll meet both him and them unto their woe.
Exeunt all but the bishop.
This falls out well, and at the last I hope to see this heretic die in a rope.
Dun dun dun. Yeah, it's like the Cobham sort of talked the king round and said, "Look, you know, he's basically gone in and said, Catholic Church is rubbish, and nobody's burning him." And the king says, "Well, you know, as long as you don't start any insurrections, you know, nobody's doing that, then that's fine." And the bishops says that's not good. That's not very good. Not impressed with that. And then we get news. There's an insurrection, and they're using Lord Cobham's name in vain. And the king's mightily cross. He is not a happy bunny. Bishop's quite pleased. Bishop's quite pleased.
Working
So
out
yeah,
well.
it's that thing. It's yeah, random anti-Semitism for no readily apparent reason. That just sort of slaps one in the face. It just go, what? Yeah, no, okay, that can go. So yeah, but yeah, Cobham just out says it. Yeah, don't believe. Church is wrong. Church is wrong. Luckily, the bishop's not in the room, and then he gets in to sort of preemptively sign this this pardon before anyone else comes into the room. So yeah, interesting things. Thoughts in the room. You know, they're really the king's definitely, you know, trying to be on Cobham's side here, isn't he? They're trying to, yeah, Henry V, you know, doesn't have a problem with this whole blasphemy thing. Lynn.
Yeah, the king and Cobham seem to be talking past each other a little bit in this first bit when Cobham says, I don't acknowledge my obligation to Rome, and if you can cite scripture to prove me wrong, I'll change my mind. And Henry sort of doesn't confront that directly. He says, well, I'm not going to, your soul is your business, kind of thing. Just don't have meetings of these rebels at your house. And Cobham never doesn't really say, okay, I won't. He
just says some words. He just says words back. They don't really connect, do they, at all?
Yeah, they're not really answering one another. So it's sort of like they refuse to have a direct confrontation. We're trying to preserve both their reputations here. So it's a difficult scene to write, but it comes out really interesting.
Yeah, the king's reply is really telling as well. You know, just let it suffice. It's like he's just looking at you, going, "Okay,
yeah,
I'm going to trust you."
Yeah.
But I know you didn't answer that question, really.
Yeah.
So there might be just a little edge to the scene here, especially with the thing when he's presented with paper and ink, and going, "Okay, so maybe he's not so good there." Alan.
I must admit the construction of this seems to relate much more to Henry VIII than it does to Henry V. You know, a lot of the arguments seem to be being rehearsed, which would be much more apposite at the time of Henry's falling out with the Catholic Church.
Yes, there is definitely some retconning going on all the way through this, and nudging and of things. Briony.
Really enjoyed that the king said about we would be loath to press our subjects' bodies, much less their souls, given everything that came after, you know, in terms of like the monarchy forcing people to believe in the religion that they say, and you know, that chopping and changing all the time and stuff. Like, yeah.
But yeah, not this king, allegedly. I mean, you know, I seem to recall Henry V was really quite pious as well. You know, so all this stuff is deeply implausible in so many interesting ways. Lynn.
Although this is written late in Elizabeth's reign, and I think rather famously said she had no desire to make windows into men's souls as long as people were outwardly loyal. He was willing to let their religious practice be between them and God. So, though, yeah, Elizabeth's administration pursued heretics much less zealously than Mary's did. About the same number of people were executed during each of their reigns, but Mary ruled for 5 years and Elizabeth for over 40. So the rate at which people were executed it was actually treason, because heresy equals treason, that it was much lower during Elizabeth's reign. So, I mean, she was sort of let sleeping dogs lie kind of That's my understanding.
Though that ebbs and flows across the years as well, because we're now into the increasingly more paranoid stage of her reign as well. So there's all sorts of interesting fluctuations here. Helen.
Yeah, just following on from what Robert said, we'd got to the stage here where the Pope had excommunicated Elizabeth and was inserting into England Englishmen who had gone abroad to be made to be priests and were coming back into the country in order to suborn Englishmen. And of course, England was at war with Catholic powers. And I mean, it was a fighting war, mostly in Ireland at this stage, but it was still a war. And I think that although Elizabeth was far more Catholically inclined than many of her subjects would have wished, the people who were by this time running the country, the Privy Council, were ferociously anti-Catholic.
Right, we only have a certain amount of time left. I'm probably not going to have time to go round the room and do the final thoughts from everyone, but we'll have a go. Eric, do you have anything specifically on this as a play? Let's not dive too much into the from then, but as a play for today. Anything leaping out at you as too confusing for a modern audience, or I think once framed, the action of the play is actually quite straightforward, but people are more. Disagree with me if you wish, in your view. Eric, any final thoughts?
I don't know. I think it could be staged like quite comfortably today because they're all politicians and politicians lie. And that's basically what they're doing to each other. Whether like, and it's so dubious as well because like, you know, Oldcastle is, you don't know if he's like, you see hints of like manipulation with the king and sort of using leverage with the king and stuff to acquire favors, but then also sort of, I don't know, maintaining, sort of helping out the poor, which I guess is something. Then again, they're all in public. It's like with Wounds of Civil War, where they were all performing a role that they had to do. They had to perform. I mean, as a sort of public function, not as a sort of we are in private now.
Yeah, and it's nice to have a slightly different angle from King Henry V, because you know it's always that focus on the other elements of his life, and this almost court intrigue element of his reign, which you don't really get. I'm quite elsewhere. I'm quite interested in that. Lalit, any final thoughts?
I was sort of thinking that the second half of this play is lost, isn't it? And so this
no, we got it. There is in theory there's a part 2, but but you know this play is an entire thing.
Oh no, because I read that there was a part 2 that was no longer in existence, which would, you know,
there is another play that is.
Yes, that's what I meant.
But that doesn't mean that this play is not complete, if that makes sense.
Oh no, I didn't mean that. No, I was just intrigued. This whole play is fairly not light exactly, but it's kind of focused on the people kind of ducking out of trouble in a way. Whereas I think obviously the one that we no longer have access to would presumably have turned a lot darker. But this has quite a kind of fun side to it that makes it quite stageable. But I could use a glossary of a lot of words and some accent coaching.
Lynn, any final thoughts?
No, what's striking me is like this tightrope walk that this thing has to perform to keep both Henry and Oldcastle in our books. So that's just really interesting how the play is navigating that.
Elizabeth, any final thoughts?
Yeah, just briefly, speaking to what Eric was saying about the performability of the text, I thought it was really, the characters are really vibrant and there's a lot of them. So there's quite a lot for actors to get involved in. I love the idea of actors changing their costumes to be different people. And one of the biggest things I was thinking about for this text is that costume would really make it or break it, depending on the costume choices of the director would determine, I think, a lot about how the characters were staged, how the characters come across, and how we understand what's happening in the narrative.
Yeah. Briony, any final thoughts?
Just really similar to what Elizabeth was saying. There's something about the vibrancy was exactly the word I was going to use. It's just, I'm not sure what it is yet, but I'm enjoying it. And I'm a bit gutted I'm going to miss the middle session, but hoping that the end will be just as strong.
Yes, we're always a little worried that things might not turn out well at the end, but we shall see. Rachael, any final thoughts?
This was so dense today. I feel this one, like the text. There's it's been. I think I might get this more tomorrow, but I've been slow on the uptake with this one session. So, you know, sometimes we have comedy servants and they have accents, but for this time with the accents, I felt like I really was missing like the context of it, where like, you know, the UK history and the UK geography, and knowing what that sort of, I guess, you know, how accent has some sort of class distinction in England might have meant something here that I don't know if I was picking up on. And then the sort of, you know, that this is supposed to be Henry V's time period, but it says more about Elizabethan period was throwing me a bit.
But I mean, in that sense, the play world is consistent. I don't think it's not like it suddenly lurches from, you know. So, in terms of presenting this play, you know, so long as your play world is consistent, then it's fine in that sense. Rachael.
Yeah, I don't mean to say that it was inconsistent or anything, but I'm just slow to drop into this play.
Yes, there's an interesting question of how does one tune into a text, and also what to do with when playwrights start using sort of expressions from the time that fall out of fashion, which is something that may be more of a problem the further into the 17th century we get. Alan, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting piece. It works well at pace, I think. And there's an interesting variation of tone. I mean, we've had the two all semi-comic sequences, which almost feel like they're set pieces that could possibly have had a separate existence somewhere, with the contest between Harpoole and the Sumner, the two Jobsworths bit, and then the tavern scene with Doll, Constable, and again Harpoole. And I think if there was a role for someone who might in other contexts be described as the clown figure, I think Harpoole is quite possibly that actor.
Helen, final thoughts?
Yeah, it's a great play. Late 1590s, stuffed with incident, not a single word that is incomprehensible to people who actually live in the 1590s, like me.
That's however, not always our target audience, Helen, but yeah.
And the whole blasted lot of them would have ended up in Star Chamber, I can tell you that.
Sarah, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I love it. I'm really enjoying it. I loved the opening. It was just, with that fight, it was just so dramatic and fun. And I think a modern audience would really respond well to that. And yeah, just to underline what Elizabeth and Briony said, I feel the characterization in this play is fantastic. And I think the characterization would carry a modern audience along with it. That is how I feel about it. So because the characters seem to be written in quite an authentic and truthful way, I think the audience would be able to immediately engage with them, and that would carry them over any words that they perhaps didn't quite understand. And the accent thing as well. I mean, if you cast Welsh people in those Welsh roles, then I mean that would just immediately take care of itself. I also think there's a really interesting thing going on with the scenes with, like, you know, the lower characters, because what I find really fascinating about that is the fact that, like, religion really isn't an issue. They might pretend that it's an issue, but it's really all about drinking and fighting and having sex. So it's really, really interesting that that this supposed, you know, the whole point of the play, that we get to see it from that other side, and it's actually not that. You know, the issue is the way the issue is treated at that level, or not treated, is I find really fascinating. And the politics always fascinates me because I like political plays. I particularly like that last scene that we did with the king, and the way the king was sort of manipulated. And like you said, Robert, we get to see a different side of Henry V there, which, in comparison to how he is in Famous Victories, it's just a nice insight into what he's like when he's at home and when he's actually sort of trying to do the real politic thing, and you know, turns out he's not that good at it so far, at least. So I think it's a really fascinating play.
Yes. So I have to say it's a really nice, strong opening that, you know, it just goes with noises almost, and it doesn't really matter if you know who's fighting for who or why they're going, because it's then reiterated clearly afterwards. I mean, dramaturgically, it functions incredibly well. I think the scenes are doing different work, but they're moving the overall story forward. We've got a fairly clear idea where everybody are sided, but they're not always out-and-out villains, apart from the out-and-out villain, who seems to be straight out of a morality play. So all that remains is to thank all the wonderful readers for their wonderful reading. We will return to more Sir John Oldcastle next time. Ta-ta!
Bye.
Helter Skelter again.